Over 20 years ago, Volvo introduced the XC90 to the world. Now, this was a big deal for the company because it was the brand's first ever SUV, and even though Volvo was kind of late to the party, it quickly became the brand's best-selling model with over 1 million units sold worldwide. Now, about 10 years ago, the company introduced the all-new second generation. It was a big deal because it really raised the bar in the three-row midsize SUV space, and for 2025, the company is looking to do that again with the introduction of this. This is the 2025 and a half Volvo XC90. It's been redone on the outside in terms of the design. It has a brand new interior with a new infotainment system, and under the hood, you can still take your pick between 3 different electrified powertrains, all of them gas powered. So today we're actually out here at Volvo's headquarters in Gothenburg, Sweden. So now that we're finally seeing the new XC90 in person, let's go ahead and take a detailed first look. So the all-new second-generation XC90, when it was first introduced back in 2016, was such a radical departure from the original first generation. We've been waiting for Volvo to do an all-new version of the XC90. So now that we're seeing the 2025 and a half, Volvo has a tendency to do these half increments to show a redesigned model. You're probably wondering what's actually different because it kind of looks the same as the previous generation or the current generation. And as you can see, obviously there are some subtle changes. So let's go ahead and talk about some of those changes. Now, first of all, this model that we're showing you is the T8 Ultra trim. So it's the top of the line. It replaces the Ultimate trim, and it's painted in this color called Bright Dusk. And you can see from the front fascia, it definitely has a new look. Actually, Volvo says the front fascia is new, even though it doesn't really look all that new. The headlights, you can see there's an updated version of the Thor's Hammer LED. It has a new LED light signature. It has the LED low and high beams. These are the LED turn signals. There's this kind of new front bumper with this kind of chrome lip over here, some fake and functional vents. And then you can see the grille has a really cool design. I love the texture that Volvo has added along with the new Volvo logo. This one here has the bright theme. In other markets, Volvo will offer a dark theme, but sadly in the US, the bright is the only theme that's coming. In this bright dusk exterior color with the additional chrome, some of the black accents in the lower fascia, it certainly makes for a nice look, although again, some of you may squint to actually see the differences, but I think that it's a kind of a good thing that Volvo kept the design kind of more conservative. The current generation has aged extremely well, so obviously they didn't really need to do too much in terms of the design. Now, I can't pop the hood for you because this is a very early prototype model, but underneath the hood, the powertrain specs essentially carry over. Starting at the base B5, which is a 2-liter turbo 4-cylinder with a mild hybrid system that delivers 247 horsepower, 266 pound-feet of torque. That's an increase of around 8 more pound-feet of torque versus the previous generation. Goes through an 8-speed auto with, of course, all-wheel drive. The B6 powertrain essentially ups the power to 295 and 310 pound-feet of torque. Those again carried over from the previous generation. Fuel economy did improve, however, on the B5 is now rated up to 26 mpg combined. The B6 is rated up to 23 mpg combined, so that's actually the same as last year. The B5 went up by about 2 mpg. Now this model here has the top powertrain, so it's the T8 plug-in hybrid. The company has dropped the Recharge name, and that essentially means you have the same 2-liter turbo 4 with a very powerful rear electric motor to deliver up to 455 horsepower, 523 pound-feet of torque. The electric motor pulls its power from an 18.8 kilowatt-hour battery pack. Around 14.7 is usable, and the company actually already said around 32 miles of electric-only range. This is going to be the quickest model, doing 0-60 in just over 5 seconds with a 112 mile-per-hour top speed. Towing capacity should remain around 5,000 pounds, and this model is also the heaviest at just over 5,000 pounds, although compared to the EX90, this is still around 1,000 pounds lighter. And that's the other thing I want to mention. A lot of people thought that the XC90 would go away with the introduction of the EX90, but as you can see, this is the brand's best-selling model, and they've decided to keep this vehicle on the same SPA 1 platform. So it's been modified, of course, for this 2025 and a half model year, but in terms of the dimensions, if you want to follow me over this way, this is actually still the same size as the current generation at 195 inches in the overall length with a 117.5 inch wheelbase. It certainly is about the same size as like a BMW X5, but I also think it's a little bit of a missed opportunity for Volvo to make this car a little bit longer. The EX90 is around 3 inches longer and 3 inches wider, but you can see the side proportions here look pretty much the same. This particular one that I'm showing you here has an upgraded 22-inch wheel. Remember, this is the Ultra trim, riding on a pretty fat 275 by 35 R22 tire on a Pirelli P0. These are a summer performance tire. You have all disc brakes, and this vehicle is still available with their 4-corner air suspension, so you can raise and lower the vehicle to increase the ground clearance. I think the previous generation, the current one, offered up to like 10 inches of ground clearance when you had it at its top height setting. Now over here you can see this is the charge port door for the battery pack. They actually redesigned the way the door looks compared to the current model. This is the European style plug. plug, but it still has a 3.7 kilowatt onboard charger. It'll take roughly 6 to 7 hours to charge on a level 2, so it's a little bit slower than some of its competitors. I was hoping that Volvo would have increased the speed of that, but it's a plug-in hybrid, so obviously you can still drive it on gas if you don't feel like plugging it in. You can see the bright theme is going to have a lot of chrome here along the window trim, along the roof rails, of course. There's also a standard panoramic glass roof that also opens up to vent air, unlike the EX90, which doesn't actually allow you to open it up to vent air. This is, again, one of the reasons to go for the XC90. Moving over to the rear of the vehicle, you can see the silhouette proportions still pretty much look like the current model, which is fine because I still think the outside of that car looks good, even though it's been on the market for almost a decade. You can see the rear design has a slightly updated taillight. I feel like the coloration of it's a little bit darker. Maybe it has a few more LEDs with a more unique light signature. It still has the typical badging back here. There's a T8 plug-in hybrid all-wheel drive badge because remember, they got rid of the Recharge name for 2025 and a half. You can see more chrome along here. No visible exhaust tips, but you have some nicely integrated parking sensors, camera systems. Obviously, Volvo also does offer a digital camera rearview mirror as part of an option package. And then looking at the cargo area, because dimensionally it's the same, it hasn't really changed. So you have around 11.2 cubic feet of space with the third row up. The non-plug-in hybrid will offer about a cubic foot more. If you want to fold down the third row seat, which as you can see is a manually folding seat, this expands the cargo to around 35 cubic feet of space, which is still very good. If you fold down this second row, which you can also get it in a 6 or 7 passenger configuration, this is the 7, you get a maximum of around 65 cubic feet of space. So again, pretty decent numbers. However, you will find a little bit more space from some of its rivals. And again, that's going to go back to the fact that this car isn't quite as big on the outside. I do appreciate the fact that there's also a nice little underfloor storage area here. There's the charge cable, the mobile charger, if you guys want to plug it into a 110. And then Volvo does these really cool things where if you flip that up, it provides a nice little divider if you don't want to keep your, or if you want to keep your cargo from kind of rolling around. But overall, as you can see, cargo area is still usable, but there are some rivals out there that offer a little bit more space. So on the outside, even though some of you may struggle to see the changes that Volvo has made, this is where the company obviously made more changes to the interior, and it really is going to be focused around the technology aspect with the interface. Now, this particular one that I'm showing you has that bright dusk exterior with the cardamom Nordico interior. So this is their new bio leather material that they first introduced on the EX90 and the EX30. You can also get it with the midnight zinc, which is their tailored wool material, which is the first time you can get it on the XC90. You can see even though this is a bio leather material, it feels really high quality. It smells really nice. You can get it with heated seats and ventilated seats, but if you wanted ventilated seats, you have to go to the Napa leather. The wool also will not be available with the ventilated seats, and you can also get it with massage seats, which are available on the Nordico or the Napa leather. You can see the door panel has the typical really nice materials. So there's beautiful leather stitching here with contrast, or leather with contrast stitching. You have the upgraded Bowers & Wilkins stereo with the metal speaker covers. You have a 3-person memory. Those seats adjust in like 14 different ways. Then I love this kind of wood trim that you see here with the high level of interior illumination at night. More of that cardamom here. And then down here you can see it's slightly padded with a little bit more storage materials here, or a little bit more storage there in the door pockets. There's an illuminated side sill over there to make getting into this vehicle a little bit more pleasant. And you can see once you get inside, the step-in is typical XC90 with that nice step-in height. And then as I shut the door has a nice solid sounding thunk. Remember, this is built on the current SPA1 or SPA1 architecture. It's not the SPA2 that we see on the EX90. Now, in terms of the interior, some of you may look at this and actually think it looks the same as the current model, and I wouldn't fault you for thinking that. The steering wheel looks exactly the same aside from the new Volvo logo here. It still has a manual tilt and telescoping arrangement for the steering wheel itself. Still has the same kind of controls here for the window controls, for the memory controls, for the turn signal stalks, for the buttons. So I really am surprised Volvo didn't want to put the new steering wheel from the EX90 on this vehicle. You can see all of them will have a 12.3-inch fully digital cluster. This looks pretty much the same as the last model that I drove, which was a 2024. There's also a heads-up display, beautiful leather going across the upper portion here. But really in this center stack area, this is where Volvo has made some key upgrades. Obviously, you can see here the screen. This is their newest 11.2-inch infotainment touchscreen. It has Google built in. It's increasing in size by about 2.1 inches, which is definitely a nice upgrade that Volvo has done. You can see this has Google built in. It also includes Apple CarPlay, although the CarPlay is not going to be wireless. It's going to be a wired connection. only the EX90 will have the wireless function when they introduce the over-the-air updates. The screen itself, some of you may not like the way it looks because it's kind of tacked on, but I also appreciate the fact that it is obviously larger. That was one of my criticisms of the old XC90. You have a new design for the dash vents, which kind of reminds me of the XC60. And then you can see here, going into your sources, this vehicle with Google built in. You can also download apps from the Google Play Store. You can also play racing games. You can do Waze, ChargePoint, Spotify. You can also get more apps over there. Pushing that, you can see this is where you pull up the heated seat controls, heated steering wheel controls. You can go into your climate function here and adjust that. This one that I'm showing you is a very early pre-production model, but you can see the graphics look absolutely fantastic. This is very similar to what I saw on the EX90 with the new graphics and you know how this vehicle has their latest Google system built in. I'll have to wait until I get one back home to test out the actual infotainment system, but even though this is still not quite as big as the 14.5-inch display, it's certainly an improvement. Volvo says they didn't want to go with the bigger 14.5-inch display because they wanted to preserve some of the buttons here. So you can see you have a big volume knob here, actual buttons here for your turns or for your hazard controls, your defogger switch, your seek and track forward buttons, of course. You have a wireless phone charging pad here. The crystal shifter is unique to the T8 models, which I love the fact that they still have a traditional shifter. It looks beautiful when it's illuminated up. The EX90 went to like an electronic shifter here on the stock, but this again has the standard system, the more traditional system. Some piano black plastic over here, but you can see the cardamom kind of extends into the center console. You have more of that beautiful wood trim with decent cup holder storage. Your start-stop switches over here, along with your electronic parking brake and your auto hold. There's a padded center console here. Open that up, you can see this is not the deepest center console. There's two USB-C charging ports, and that's because the battery pack actually lives in this area here. So if you go for the regular gas versions, you're going to have a deeper center console area because the 18.8 kilowatt battery pack isn't taking up the space here in the center console area. Looking over here, you can see the seats are very comfortable and supportive. You also have some thigh extender cushions for it. You can get a massage seat function, which is nice. But if you want heated or ventilated seats, you have to again go for the Napa leather. So kind of keep that in mind. The glove compartment, if you want to open that up, you push this button here. You can see it's actually a really big glove compartment. It's damped and it's lined with felt. And in terms of the visibility, things haven't really changed here. It still has the typical XC90 sightlines. And this is where, again, some of you may criticize Volvo for not changing the interior enough, but the main criticism was really that infotainment system. Sadly, I wish it had wireless CarPlay, but the fact that it at least has, you know, wired connection CarPlay is definitely nice. The old model had it too, but this 11.2-inch display definitely looks a lot better. Now, you can see the mirror, it's an auto-dimming, frameless design. You have a woven material here on the headliner along with LED map lighting, and then the panoramic roof is gigantic. That also does open up to vent air, which is something that you can't get on the EX90, so kind of keep that in mind. It certainly makes this cabin feel open and airy, and in this cardamom interior color, it certainly also has a really nice look to it. So overall, I think Volvo, you know, could have done more with this interior, but they really addressed the biggest complaint, which was the infotainment system software. You can get it, of course, with different seat materials, but I think most people who are, you know, used to their current XC90 are going to find the improvements they made here to your liking. Now moving to the backseat area of the XC90, you can see here in America you can take your pick between either this 7-passenger configuration or a 6-passenger that would essentially remove the center seat here and give you captain's chairs, which is typically a $500 upcharge. We don't have final pricing just yet. You can see the door panel materials kind of carry over. You have these manual retractable shades. In the US, these will have tinted windows. You have the beautiful wood trim with the soft padded area here where you'd rest your elbows. Down here it's slightly padded, although this area is hard touch. You still have nice additional storage. And then Volvo actually already had some specs back here for the rear seat legroom. So the second row area has around 36.6 inches of legroom. These seats also fold down and they recline, and they also slide forward and back. But let's go ahead and get back here and show you guys what the space is like. And once I'm back here, you can see this is with the seat all the way back. So I have a good amount of space to kind of get comfortable. I can also cross my legs and get pretty comfortable back here. If I want to slide this seat forward, which you definitely need to do to give third row passengers more room, you're obviously going to be compromising space there. There is a little bit of a hump here as well. Again, the battery pack lives in between the center console here. And you can see this area hasn't really changed at all. It still has, you know, 4-zone climate control. You have 3-level heated seats back here, but no cooled seats. I would have liked to see Volvo add cooled seats. You also have storage cubbies over here, which is nice. And then Volvos are typically known for their safety and these cool features here. This is an integrated child booster seat, which you can get as part of like a upcharge for $500. This is great if you guys have kids that are between the ages of like 4 and 9, where they can essentially sit back here. There's also a little armrest that folds down and gives you 2 cup holders here. So that's, again, a nice little touch. For 2 people back here, this is extremely comfortable, and you can also fold this little seat down if you want by pulling on this right here, which is a little hard to do when you do that, but that essentially does fold the seat down as well. But let's go ahead and hop into the third row area. To get into the third row, Volvo makes it pretty simple. There's a little latch over here. You kind of just pull on that, and that pushes the seat out of the way, and you have to manually push it out of the way. And you can see back here, there's only room to sit 2 people, because remember, this vehicle is a mid-size crossover. It's not like a large one like on the Lexus TX, but you can see once I get back here and kind of cram myself into the third row, Volvo says there's around 31.9 inches of legroom back here. Now, this is with the seat all the way back, and I have to say, for a vehicle that's this small on the outside compared to rivals, I actually can sit back here at 5'7". My knees are kind of just grazing the seat back over here, so I can do it. It's not the most comfortable, and on shorter trips it should be fine. Obviously, you can ask this passenger to move the seat forward for taller drivers. You do have some features back here, like looks like there's a little bit of a storage area, cup holders. You have rear seat air vents, which is a nice touch. Back here you also have the same thing, rear seat air vents and storage area. No USB charging, however, in the third row. You're going to find that instead on the second row on that little console area. And then in terms of the headroom space, you can see that headroom does come into the second row area here. But in terms of the third row, at 5'7", my hair kind of just grazes the ceiling, so kind of keep that in mind. The third row is definitely for smaller kids or average size adults, but it certainly is still a nice feature. And just like on the current generation, you can kind of squeeze up to 7 people in this vehicle in a pinch. So with just under 40,000 units sold in America in 2023, the current generation XC90 was actually the brand's best seller. Technically, the XC60 and the XC90, they're both of the brand's bestsellers. They kind of trade places depending on the model year. What also is very impressive is the fact that the current model has been out since 2016, yet they had their best sales year ever in the States. So obviously this is a cash cow for Volvo. It does extremely well, and it's no surprise to me that they would play it a little safe for the redesign of the 2025 and a half model, because they call it a half because technically there's a 2025 already on sale now, but this model here will be coming to the US in the first quarter of 2025. Now, obviously, some of you may be a little disappointed that they didn't make more changes to the vehicle, but to be honest, the current generation I actually thought aged extremely well on the outside. I do hope the brand will offer the dark exterior styling touch theme that you can also find in other markets. I think the bright work is nice for an elegant look, but I think some people may prefer the sportier looks, and I also would like to see them bring back a Polestar engineered version of the car. On the inside, I do really like the new Cardamom Nordico interior, which is that bio material. I like the new infotainment system, even though I am a little disappointed that it didn't get the bigger 14.5-inch display. That has to do again with a platform switch. The EX90 again is built on the new SPA 2 architecture. This is still on the current SPA 1 platform. Also, it does affect the pilot assist system, where on the EX90 you have the lane change function. This again comes standard with it, but it's technically their older system, which is still one of the better driving systems on the market. Now, if you guys are looking to get your hands on the new XC90, essentially orders are going to be open up now at dealerships, but you won't be able to actually take delivery in the US until the first quarter of 2025. And the company already announced preliminary pricing. So if you guys want to go for the base core trim, the base core trim, the Plus is going to be upgraded, and then this is the Ultra. That's going to start at around $58,450. That's about an $1,800 upcharge compared to the 2024 or 2025 model year. Remember, this is a 25 and a half model year. That's a reasonable price increase considering the fact that they definitely gave this vehicle some nice improvements. I like the styling changes they also made on the outside. We don't have final pricing yet of the other trims. The current 2025 model on the current generation, if you guys want the plug-in hybrid, starts at just under 72 grand. I would estimate that it should be obviously a little bit more expensive. The current model year can top out at around $87,000, which is kind of a nice place to kind of end, because remember, the EX90, which is technically the brand's more expensive flagship electric SUV, starts at around 80 grand and goes up to around $95,000. So I think that the XC90 is going to be there, for those more of looking for a traditional experience that just want an electrified hybrid hybrid powertrain, because remember, this model comes with all electrified powertrains, mild hybrids on the B5 and the B6, a plug-in hybrid here on this T8. And for me personally, I actually have always loved the T8 powertrain ever since they introduced the new engine back in 2022. So for those of you who, again, looking to replace your current XC90, this new version will be coming very soon, and I think that Volvo has done a good job with keeping it pretty much, familiar, but also upgrading some of the criticism that I had of the current generation. Well, all that said, hope you guys have enjoyed my very detailed overview on the 2025 and a half Volvo XC90 in the T8 Ultra trim level. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.